Hello, everyone.
Well,
Welcome. My name is Derek Mosley. I'm the director of Marquette Law School's Lubar Center for Public Policy Research and Civic Education. And this is our Get to Know series. For those of you who don't know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and there was a news reporter by the name of Harry Porterfield. He used to do this special called People You Should Know. And my family would always get together and watch that story because they made us feel like we knew the people who ran our city every day. And so I wanted to just do a little program that was similar to that and with this Get to Know program. And I'm really excited about this particular Get to Know because it's not often I have the opportunity to interview my friend. Aaron and I, the chief of Milwaukee Fire Department, we're friends. Our daughters went to high school together. We socialized together, and he gave me the distinct honor of actually swearing him in when he became chief. So, so it is my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, Milwaukee Fire Department Chief Aaron Lipski. All right, Aaron, let's get started. Where'd you grow up?
City of Milwaukee, born and raised. North side of town, initially right by Washington Park. Then we went on out a little bit northwest towards about 79th and Burleigh. Anybody remember a little awesome, excellent old-style butcher shop called Hank and Charlie's?
oh,
Yeah, right? I was on that city block. So I got sent down the alley many times to go pick up an onion or, hey, pick up a couple of pork chops. And that was, to me, that was heaven. Like to just be given like a wad of cash. It was probably like, back in the day, it was probably like a $1.05 to go for a full bag of groceries. And every once in a while, if my father wrote me a little note, I also would get a 6-pack. And they would give it to me.
you got 5 or 6.
But so Aaron's mom's here, so we have to make sure that we don't tell too much.
I mean,
So where'd you go to elementary school? Did you go in that neighborhood?
Yeah, right close to there, on about 68th and Lisbon. MGC, Mother of Good Counsel,
Yes, MGC.
K through 8.
So tell me about your parents.
Well, so my mom is absolutely wonderful. And this is my mom over here. Her name's Iris. One of the hardest working human beings I've ever known.
Iris, can you tell us about the birth of Aaron? No,
Oh, no.
we're not going to go there.
I have heard the story of my own birth so many times, more than like the Christmas story, really.
at least tell them you were 9.5 pounds.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you. I was 9.5 pounds, and it was like a 72-hour labor, and right. But thanks for having me. Appreciate it. No, my mom's one of the hardest working people I know. I love music also, so I do get my music from my mom. She's a singer also, and a sense of humor that cuts right through trouble spots in a conversation and allows communication to continue. Right? And I think I've just snagged just a little bit of that, and it's been very helpful to be able to work through conflicting conversations or danger areas in conversations where others might just go back to their corners or leave or exit a conversation or allow it to escalate and explode. It's been one of the most useful things I've learned and been able to deploy in, I work for the City of Milwaukee. I don't know if anybody watches TV, but every once in a while people disagree about stuff. And thank you. She's my paid laugh track for that. I love that. No, but really, honestly, it's been very, very useful because it isn't about that everybody agrees on everything. That's an echo chamber. It's about that people can disagree and continue communicating and eventually arrive at something resembling a solution. So I'm not going to start preaching about that. But.
No, finish up. Talk about your dad.
So my dad So my dad was a Milwaukee firefighter also, as was my grandpa and my great-grandfather, and my older brother also, a couple uncles. And my stepfather was a dispatcher for the Milwaukee Fire Department. But I obviously the fire thing was, I was just around it my whole life. And
But you didn't want to be a firefighter.
No, I wanted nothing to do with it. Seriously.
Why was that?
Well, my dad works hard, plays hard, right? And so he was gone a lot, seemed like the majority of the time. And when he was home, he was exhausted. He was oftentimes had burns in kind of weak spots in our protective gear, broken bones over the years, and quite frankly, a little bit on the grumpy side, which that holds true to this day, I've discovered, even though he appears to sleep much better. But it just didn't look fun. It looked like, wow, this is just a good way to like get yourself beat up or almost killed in some cases. Like, it just didn't appeal to me in my teenage years looking at it. And my grandfather and my father were pretty clear on one thing, and this was no joke. They looked right at me and my older brother, and they said, get a college degree, they can't take it away from you, and go do something that'll make you more money and beat you up less. And that they were sincere about that. And for me, that meant an awful lot. I really actually believed that because they were so steeped in the Milwaukee Fire Department and the fire service. For them to go like, hey, go do something else, I figured they had a little bit of a track record to inform me on that. And so I took that to heart, and I
wound up here.
I wound up at Marquette for one glorious semester. Yes, I did.
What'd you major in here at Marquette?
So I wound up at Marquette for one glorious semester in their theater program. Why was I only here a semester, you ask?
A semester.
Thank you. So I did pretty good in high school, and so I had a decent academic scholarship to come here. And so then I thought, well, I'll go do that theater thing at Marquette. I always had an interest in theater and obviously in music. And it turns out a couple things don't work, and that's if you're terrible at acting, then that's like the end of that career. But also, if you're not holding up your end of the bargain with the academics, they don't screw around here at Marquette. Like, they don't like coddle you and like pat you on the back and say, hey, try harder, Tiger. You just get a letter mailed to your house that says the money's over with. And that was the end of my career at Marquette, because hardworking though both my parents were, we didn't have the money for this. So that was it.
And then after that, what did you decide to do then?
Well, it was sort of decided for me. A very short time later, I was exited from living with my parents. The gravy train had come to a rapid end. And so then it was real lifetime. And I went out and did a bunch of stuff. I worked for a digger's hotline, so like if you're irritated with the orange lines and the yellow lines all over, that I did some of those. But it was interesting work, hard work, but I felt like I wanted something more, and ended up getting my EMT license. So I was sort of in the neighborhood of emergency services, right? And I worked at a private ambulance company. There used to be a company called Paratech. And I did that for 4 years or so. And
Now, you lived with your brother after you left home?
That's right.
Now, did your brother also become an EMT?
Yeah, so my brother, he went in the Army. I want to say, I'm guessing at the years, but he went in the Army, did a 4-year stint, came out as a Army corpsman. And so when he came back, he had to just do like a little transfer course, and all of a sudden he could be an EMT in the state here, because he had all that additional training. And so he was working at Paratech. He goes, you ought to look at this. This is actually, it's interesting, it's fun. And so I went for a semester and got my EMT license. And I did that while I was at Digger's Hotline, so I'd be out painting lines, and then I'd sit in my car at my lunch breaks and read these books and, but I got into it and I really did enjoy it. I really, really enjoyed the emergency medical part of things. And I thought like I might end up just doing that sort of stuff. I went and got a next level degree then. It was called intermediate, and it's halfway between basic and paramedic. So you can like start IVs and do some cool stuff. And I did that out in Ozaukee County. I worked as on an ambulance out there that was intermediate level. I also worked as an emergency room tech. And then, well, now I'm here.
Yeah. Well, this is what's funny because what got you here was you had a conversation with your dad. I think was a battalion chief,
He was.
and you had a conversation with him at his office, and he said something, and you referred to it as the Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. My dad's an expert at the Jedi mind trick. And I honestly, to this day, I think back on that conversation a lot because I don't know if there was really like he was trying to do something, but he called me down there specifically to tell me, hey, they're going to have a test so you could take a test and get on a list and maybe come on the fire department. And I still, at that moment in time, I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying what I'm doing. I got other things going on. But I went down to the office. I did always enjoy going to the fire station to visit my dad and hang out with him. And so that I was going to enjoy it one way or another. And he sat down and goes, yeah, I guess it'll be, I'm going to make something. I guess it'll be next spring. Here's how you get on the mailing list so you can find out the information of the specifics of it, So, how's that sounding? I was like, thanks for letting me know. And then he said, it's something, maybe don't let the opportunity pass by. Do the test and you don't have to take the job if you get on the list. And I was, all right, I guess. And to this day, I don't know what happened, but I can remember the moment I crossed the threshold out of his office to leave. Like something in my brain changed, and I have thought of nothing since. I mean, other than my wife and daughter and family, but like work-wise, I've thought of nothing else I don't know what else I could have done, would have done. I don't know what I would do if, like, they exited me tomorrow. I don't know what else I would do. This has been pretty all-consuming for me from a calling point of view, and I love it. Right? I absolutely love what I do.
And you did that with your brother. Your brother went on too.
Yeah. So my brother's always been taller and stronger and faster and smarter, and which none of those are super huge, bars. But he's been those things. He's been my big brother, and he's been just excellent. I had decided I was going to take this test before he did. And he had been away for maybe a reserve weekend, or he was just getting out of the military. The timing worked out. So he had no idea what any of the testing stuff was. But I'd been like studying and clawing around and buying books at the library. I was like really getting into it. And so I showed him, of course, my brother, I'm like, here's everything I know. And then he smoked me on the test. He just like left me in his dust on the test, but it was fine. So we both did very well on this test, and not right next to each other, but in a close enough grouping that when our numbers came up, they came up at the same time, and we were in the same fire academy class. So that was cool. We had about 50 people in the class, and that's a large group to manage with all the different stuff. So they split us into 2 battalions, and so they always had to make sure they kept us in separate battalions. Kind of a Saving Private Ryan thing. There used to be a thing on the fire department where you could not work on the same fire engine or ladder truck with a relative, right? And in case something tragic happened, you wouldn't lose multiple members from the same family. And the more we dug into this throughout my career, the more we learned that was never really written down anywhere. That was just a thing you did.
Right.
So as soon as we possibly could manipulate it, we violated that. And so I got to work around my brother. We were on nearby companies for a lot of our career. But we worked it out that we could both be on Engine 32 for one shift. And Engine 32 is on 30th and Galena, a very, very busy area of the city. And so we're going on run after run after run, and nothing over the top significant, nothing super. Hello. I didn't see you sneak in. nothing, newsworthy, like, big, dramatic, anything. And then at about 2:30 in the morning, we get woke up to drive over and fill in at another fire station because they're at a fire. Now, this is like kissing your sister, right? You don't want to get woke up at 2:30 to go fill in because someone else is off having fun putting a fire out. When I say having fun, I say it from the standpoint of we train very hard to do this, and you want to be the one that they send. Send me. You want to be that person, all right, that company. But now we're just filling in because someone else got to go do it. So we're like, okay, so we back into that fire station. We're not there for 35 seconds, and the alarms hit, and we're going for our own fire. And right around the corner, big, long apartment building, and we're the first ones there by a long shot. And so if I have time for just one fire story.
Yeah.
So now, it's a big deal who gets to be on the nozzle. That's the power position. That's the fun. It's elemental, right? You're in pushing water against fire, and you're taking the worst of everything, right? And so my brother and I had agreed if it's on my side, I'll be on the nozzle. If it's on his side, based on how we arrive. And so we both had tried to pay off the driver of the engine to just, cock the rig a certain way so it'd be on our side. Well, anyway, he can't do that because we had to pull in this little narrow road. So it's on my side. I stretch the hose line out, throw our masks on, cinch each other up, and it's the middle unit of this big apartment building, and smoke's pushing out of everywhere. So it's an indication the fire's either on the first floor or in the basement. So very important to check that basement and make sure, because falling into the burning area is not desirable for obvious reasons. So the way we had approached this apartment building, in my head I'm thinking I'm at the front door, and it's like multi-story townhouses. We had actually laid out to the back door. Well, why does this matter? This matters because I start humping as much hose as I can and making as much progress to the other end of this apartment, because that's where I understand the basement stairs to go down. And I want to get to those basement stairs. However, I just rocketed past the basement stairs, and when I get to where I think I'm supposed to be, I feel my hand around and the stairs go up. This is at the same time my brother is pushing hose, which is now charged, so he can actually push it. He's pushing the hose with such force that he knocks me over, and I go right out the screen door onto the front porch of this place, where the family is standing there. And they're like, "What the are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing to see here. It's all under control." I went back in. So we work our way to the back, where the lieutenant on this engine company is just kneeling down at the top of the basement stairs. He's like, "Are you guys done screwing around now? Can we go put the fire out?" So we went down. We had a good basement fire, but just oddball experience and kind of a nothing of a fire, right? Nobody got hurt. There was no enormous structural, loss. They were able to rehab the building with semi-quickly, but I got to do that with my brother, so that was cool.
Your family's like Backdraft.
Yeah, better looking.
So you've had every rank, right, in the fire department?
I have.
All right. And I remember you had told me a story about you were transferred to, you referred to it as the shop.
Yes.
And you didn't want to be transferred to the shop.
Yes.
What did that mean, to be transferred to the shop?
So as I kind of described, you train for this, you want to go do the tactical, hands-on things. You don't want to sit at a desk when you think about, I'm going to be a firefighter, and now I'm going to sit at a desk. So I was a battalion chief, and I was loving life. I was out in a very busy area of the city. It was a spot that my grandfather had been a battalion chief. My brother would later be a battalion chief there. But I was very excited because I was around really good, busy, experienced firefighters and paramedics, just good at what they were doing, and I was having a good time. And then a dear friend of mine who was higher in rank calls me at home on one of my off days can remember like it's yesterday, 7 at night, and he says, he's laughing. As soon as I hey, what's going on? He's laughing at me. And I said, what's so funny? He goes, curse of the competent, brother. I said, what? And he goes, yeah, you're a victim of your own success. He says, you're going to the shop. So what this means is I'm leaving a 24-hour shift, which those are brutal, right? Especially in busy area, you just don't sleep. But you get 2 days off after that, right? And so there is a trade-off there. And I'm going to be put on a 40-hour week in charge of the entire department's fleet and facilities and all supplies, all the capital budgeting, anything that breaks or goes wrong or goes missing, I have to figure out how we're going to replace that or repair it. The fire service does not do an excellent job at preparing people to step into this role, or they didn't at the time, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was good at breaking stuff, spraying water, assembling teams to go do those. I was really good at those things. Knew nothing about this. And so it was probably one of the most stressful couple of years of my life because first off, I'm not going to fail, but I didn't even know where to start. So I started looking in college coursework for words like budget, administration, finance. I knew nothing about it. A few days after I start at the repair shop, the chief of the department calls me and he says, hey, I need your capital budget request for next year by Wednesday. I said, yeah, roger that. What's a capital budget? That's how bad I was. And so I got myself in a Master of Public Administration course at UW Milwaukee, and I was literally in class on a Tuesday using it on a Wednesday. And I could not learn it fast enough. And the fact of the matter is when you get into administrative level, wherever you are, but I would say definitely in public service and public safety, you've got to learn how the rest of the real world communicates. Because I can tell you all day long that, hey, I just need more of this and I want more of that and give me more money and more people. Of course, that's the easy button, is to just say I just need more. But if you can't speak the language and you can't, to some degree, prove your case to a scientific degree, you'll get eviscerated at the table. You'll just get chopped to bits because they all speak the same language and you're the odd person out when you come there. And we lost at that table for almost my whole career. All we did 15 years prior to me being chief was lose personnel, shut fire engines and ladder trucks down, shut firehouses down. That was my whole experience for my adult years on the fire department. We're losing. And you get tired of losing. So you got to figure out a way to prove your case.
How did you were appointed interim chief? How did that happen?
So my predecessor, Chief Mark Rolfing, he had at that point been here about 9.5 years, and he pulled me in his office. I was an assistant chief. He pulls me in his office. He says, I'm gonna be leaving in a little while here. So, you're probably the guy for the job. Mostly just by dumb luck and timing, right? Because the other folks that were assistant chiefs were going to be retiring, and nobody else was really ready, I guess, in his eyes. And so I just kind of happened to be there at the right time. And then, so he has to put forward to the Fire and Police Commission, hey, this guy's going to act in this chief capacity indefinitely, and then they have to approve that. So they approved it pretty much because there was not a big worn path to the door of people who wanted to do this. So I was right place, right time. Forrest Gump story.
Yeah, but you held that for a long period of time, the interim title.
Oh yeah. So this back around the year 2000, so COVID had shut everything down. We had a lot of catching up to do from that. And it's no big secret, it's all public record and open source, I guess, but the city, a lot of the different oversight bodies were in total disarray. And they were fixated on issues, a variety of issues involving my counterparts on the police department. And so, you know, I feel like the fire service and EMS, we're a pretty highly respected service to society. We're reliable. We do what we say we're gonna do. But in that, you just get forgotten in the big picture. I've been told by more than one community group and individuals, wait, you guys are actually part of city government? And that people actually believe we're like some standalone thing that just exists because of our level of performance and our commitment. And we tried very hard to not violate that trust. That can disappear like that, right? But in that, I was sitting in this acting chief's position for many months, and I finally like poked the executive director of the Fire and Police Commission, and I said, hey, I'm not like trying to be ungrateful or anything, but do you have any actual plans for me? I mean, like I'm happy to do this, and I don't really play substitute teacher, so I'm doing stuff. I'm shaking stuff up. I'm changing things. I'm making it how I want it to be, but I don't want to just be the fixer doing all the heavy lifting to just hand this off to somebody else. So just tell me where I stand. If you don't want me, that's excellent. That's fine. I will go quietly. But somebody has to decide something here. And executive director was, still is, Lee Todd, and gentleman's gentleman. And he like looked me dead in the eyes and he goes, you should have never had to ask us about this. I'm sorry. We're all just going 100 miles an hour over here dealing with these other issues. You shouldn't have had to ask. And so they had some meetings. I had to do some communities meetings. I had to obviously interview with the fire and police commissioners, and then they selected me and gave me my own billet or my own assignment as the actual fire chief for 11 months. They gave me an 11-month term. Like, okay, I get to interview for this again in 11 months, which I did, and then now they gave me a 4-year term, and that's coming to an end. So it was nice knowing you all.
But what was interesting, you mentioned it. You said when you became the interim chief, you were changing things. I mean, you were promoting people who had never been promoted before to positions as you normally didn't see people. I know the one thing that stuck out to me is that your command staff looked different than the command staff in the fire department had ever looked. Why was that? And I say that because I mean, you were promoting women, you were promoting people of color, and that wasn't really happening in the fire department prior to you coming there. What motivated you to do that?
It's a good question. I think the easy answer there would be, well, that was the right thing to do and this and that. I think the actual answer is the talent pool and the skill set was there. It was right there, and it just struck me as it wasn't about, oh, I've got to promote a woman, or I've got to promote an African American, or it wasn't that. It was like I was looking at this huge pool of talent and just like opportunity. And why would we not? I don't know if I'm answering your question. To me, it just seemed like we are wasting some of our most precious resources here in this pursuit of just doing things the way we've always sort of done them, right? A lot gets done in huge organizations by just not noticing or not attending to or not giving full attention to. A lot of stuff just happens that way, and that's how I think you perpetuate some of this. And it wasn't how I was raised. It wasn't how I thought it should be. And somebody made the grievous error of putting me in charge. And so it was going to be how I want it to be. That's part of the equation.
You know what's interesting is you've said it. I've heard your next in command, Joshua Parrish, mention it. These individuals were here the whole time on the force. on the department, but we're never given an opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And when you asked, like you talked to the Brotherhood, the members of the Brotherhood,
Yeah.
the Brotherhood of the Black Firefighters Association, you talked to the Brotherhood, and they say that was what they appreciated, is that, you know, their father, if they were on the force, didn't get that opportunity. But you came on and said, you know what, these people have always been here, and we need to give them the same opportunity as everybody else.
And I think the same opportunity is exactly what we're talking about here, because I think one of the most dangerous things you can do in an organization, not just for the organization, but for the people you might believe you're going to be this big white knight coming down to help. You know, like, I'm going to solve all these problems. One of the worst things you can do is push somebody into a spot they're not ready for, because the whole world is sitting there. That's hyperbole. There's a lot of people who are going to just kind of hang back and just wait for the first mistake, and then they're just going to pile on. And that's, if you are not providing the proper support and not ensuring before you, like, and you're never 100% ready for the next role you step into, right? Like, nobody ever is. But you've got to have the tools to, like, set your roots and now start making those forward leaps. And if you don't prepare people, you're going to do way more harm than good. And we had seen that on our department before, where just so that, you know, somebody could check a box, they would jam somebody into a spot, and then the person would just get eaten alive. That's good for nobody.
Right. So I remember, because we used to do budget hearings together where you would show up in the common council and they go over your budget. And I remember sitting waiting for our budget hearing, and I was listening to about the fire department. And I didn't realize this. So it said that 80% of what so there's about 140 so fires a year in Milwaukee, around that number. But 80% of what the fire department does is mostly EMT stuff.
Yeah.
And there's EMT, and then 20% are fires. What else is left? What am I missing?
Oh, there's a ton of stuff. There's a lot of service type calls that we go to where it may not be as visually exciting as a fire, but say someone has a ruptured pipe in a sprinkler system at 2 a.m. That water does a ton of damage. Well, we just have the wherewithal and the equipment and the ready response. We can contain some of that and shut that down to prevent further property damage. That's just one little example. We rescue a ton of people out of elevators, especially downtown here.
She just ruined it now, man. I'm never gonna get in an elevator again.
We'll rescue you, it's okay. And we'll rescue you faster than the vendor that the property owner pays that's gonna get there when they can get there. Honest to goodness, listen, this is how this happens on elevators and a whole bunch of other issues. People pay gads of money to a vendor who says, yeah, just call us, we'll come. And they tell them, don't call the fire department because they'll cut through the doors and wreck all your stuff. Patently false. And so then they do that. Let me tell one story.
Go ahead.
So I'm the citywide commander, a deputy chief, and Fox 6 calls me at like 9 at night. It's Chief Lipski, what can I help you? Hi, this is so-and-so from Fox 6. Are you guys intending to help with all the people trapped in the elevator at Miller Park? And I said, I guess can you tell me more information? I know nothing about what you're talking about. And I had my radio on. I knew we didn't have any units going there or there. And I said, are you stuck in the elevator? And she goes, no, but a viewer just called and they're very upset. And I said, well, you know, can you call the person back and maybe have them call 911? Because this isn't how we normally receive emergency assignments. And so that she did, and the caller did. There were 11 people, including like an 8 or 9 month pregnant lady, stuck in this tiny elevator. They had been there for over 2 hours. As the facility guy for Miller Park was like trying whatever he knew how to do, which was not a whole lot, while they were waiting on the vendor. And so that's the next step then. It's the next logical step in most people's thought processes. Well, just call 911. They'll come fix it. So it took longer for us to drive over there than it did for us to very quickly and safely and efficiently open the elevator doors and help the people out. And but for some misinformation, poor advertising, poor service delivery, you know, that could have happened 2 hours earlier, right? And if you're anything like the average civilian, you don't love being confined in a super tight space, especially when you're shoulder to shoulder. So it's the next thing. So when you ask what else do, we respond. We come when you call. You don't go into some like ether of like, maybe we'll get to you tomorrow. We respond. That's what we do. And whether we know exactly what we're doing or not, we begin to hatch a plan. We begin to gather information and find out what's the actual need here. And people call us for all manner of stuff. A whole bunch of it is so far from being an emergency, it would boggle your mind. Like, really, you called 911 for that? Well, here's the thing. We've created our own monster a little bit because we will come, we'll put our best effort into like, sure, I've never fixed a dehumidifier before, but let's have a look, right? Like, and I'm like half kidding, but like, you know, your cat got into the register and is running around inside the ductwork. Like, I don't know how to get the cat out, but we'll figure it out because I know one thing, if it gets too far into the ductwork, it's not going to end well, right? So first thing, maybe we should turn the furnace off, right? Like, but we think that way because we see past all these other steps towards what the tragedy is going to end up looking like. So we start to work backwards from that. We have very pessimistic minds in the fire service, but it keeps us alive. So we always, when we plan, we have standard operating guidelines. And those are for a whole bunch of things: elevator rescue, structure fires, cutting people out of a car. We have standard operating guidelines, and those exist as just a format within which we expect our people to operate. But the very first page in our SOGs spells out to each and every member on the department that if what we are asking them to do does not match what they are looking at, what the ground truth is at that moment in time, or it's going to cause something to get worse, or is not safe to do, they have 100% license to not follow that part of the SOG. But they've got to communicate it and they've got to have a reason. I'll give you an example. We typically, on a Milwaukee 2.5-story wood frame house, like the Archie Bunker looking house, right? They're all over Milwaukee. It's a very, very standard location for us to have a fire, is in those old stock houses. We use the back door to go in with our hose line there, which people are like, why would you go all the way to the back? Well, makes perfect sense once you do it a few times. The back stairwell has access to the basement, first floor, second floor, and attic. So I can hit every floor from that one stairwell. It's also, in many cases, especially with rear garages, it is a main point of entry for people. A lot of people don't go in their front door after they park their car in the rear garage. So it's a main point of entry. So many people, when smoke hits or an alarm is going off, they go with where they're comfortable going. And that rear stairwell is where we're going to find a lot of people down, or the pathway from that rear stairwell to bedrooms at nighttime. So it's a strategic thing for us to use that rear doorway. Now, what else comes in the rear? All the utility lines. So if you get a well-involved fire and you have fire issuing from a window right where that power line attaches to the rear of the house and those wires drop, that will kill you yesterday. So if our SOG aims you to the back door and you get there and there's a wire hopping around on the ground, I don't just hope, I am expecting our members are going to make the move for their own safety to reposition to the front door. That's it. And there's going to be no argument. It's not an opinion. It's not, well, I feel like. No, I would rather you not be electrocuted in the backyard. So that's how our SOGs work. In that, what you'll find, and that's the example I gave you is pretty vanilla, but clear. Mm-hmm. But in that, what you develop in your membership is a willingness to to step outside of what might be the norm. So you get more creativity. You get good risk taking, meaning people will, in the absence of 100% certainty or information, which is most of our operating environment, you show up, you don't have enough information ever. And you're constantly trying to gather it and inquire and seek it, but you just don't have enough. And you, even after the emergency in most cases, you'd never have 100% of the information. But in that time compression, in that life critical scenarios where if I stop and I do the thing where, okay, are we all in 100% agreement on what the exact plan is here? Nobody's ever, it's America, it's 2025. We don't agree on like what the temperature is outside right now. So that's not you can't have paralysis by analysis where we are going to perseverate until every little detail is hashed out. We have to take a forward step. And that's one beautiful thing about firefighters and this model, this SOG model, is people will go like, listen, this is what I know. This is what I think based on patterns from past experience. This is what we're going to do. Boom. And we begin taking action. And you're right. The majority of our runs as a fire department are not fires. But when you look at what the actual work hours and staff hours are dedicated to emergency medicine versus fires, it's roughly half and half because it takes way more resources, consumes way more resources to fight a fire than it does for most medical runs. And the medical runs are fairly quickly handled and processed, and we get those companies back in service. Fires just take longer, more resources.
So this year, January of this year, the Milwaukee Fire Department is celebrating its 150th year.
It is.
And in those 150 years, how many Lipskis have been there?
Oof. I think, well, I'll be generous with it, and I'll say, including by marriage, probably 19. Roughly. Who's counting? But wow. In the fire service, that's referred to as you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Lipski. I don't know who invented that, but
So, what are you most proud of with your time as chief of the Milwaukee Fire Department?
oof. I am most proud that we have not had an active duty firefighter death from a fire or some other calamity. We haven't had any firefighters shot and killed, which is happening around the country, or run over by a car. Like, we've narrowly escaped these on a few terrible instances, but we haven't lost a firefighter. I guess I would say that's like kind of an obvious answer, but I would also say more thematically and more long range. There was a thing, and my grandfather told me that his father told him this. My father told me that my grandfather told him this, and my father told my brother and I this. And that is that when you walk in the firehouse, people are going to say things like, morale's never been lower. Morale's never been worse. It's that pessimism thing. It's that, like, you just see the negative in everything for so long. It's hard to just bust out of that, even when you're like in the greatest profession on the planet. Morale's never been worse. And I was glad to have them tell me that, because they kind of put it in like, just take that with a grain of salt. It's just a thing people say. About a year and a half ago, I was walking across the apparatus floor. I work at 7th and Wells right here across from the Public Museum. Our offices are on the 3rd floor, and the first 2 floors are the fire station portion. So we call the 3rd floor where fun goes to die. And I was walking across the apparatus floor, go to the elevator, go upstairs, and unsolicited, a member approached with other members around and just said something like, I'm like, hey, how's it going, guys? And he goes, it's actually going pretty good. That's not how firefighters answer that question. And I'm not saying everything's fixed. We have a lot of work left to do. We have a lot of repair work to do and just, I do have to get these folks some rest. But I think at last they feel like someone's actually going to like stick their neck out for them a little bit. And that did not happen in my career. And I'm trying because, you know, back in the day, when I was first a firefighter, I literally would have people like, all you do is sit on chairs out in front of the firehouse. And now that's an image that's burned into Americana, because make no mistake, there was chair sitting. That just doesn't really happen that much anymore. Our crews are just getting ground into the sod. Run totals year over year were constantly on the rise. All of the resource cutting I described, we lost about a third of our footing in the city of Milwaukee. When I came on, we had 306 firefighters protecting the whole city every day. And at our lowest, about as recently as 5 years ago, we were down to 192. We lost over a third of our personnel to actually go out and do all these things. At the same time, the run totals are climbing. You know, that just doesn't make sense to my brain. Why are we cutting resources as the demands increase? And we're doing a ton of stuff in the background to try to decrease the reliance on 911. There's, you know, a whole bunch of different programs. We're trying to put ourselves out of business. That's great. But our whole problem in the fire service and in EMS, especially in your urban centers, is good ideas don't make reality stop. And so in the meanwhile is the problem we're left holding. That's our bag to hold, is the in the meanwhile. So we can have a program, community paramedicine, mobile integrated health. We go to our high utilizers, people who rely on 911 hundreds of times a year for a variety of medical problems, sometimes serious, most times not. And we approach with a caseworker and a social worker mentality. We approach the people and we go, hey, can we like help you tie some of these things together so you don't need us to go get your asthma medicine? And we get them a primary care physician. We get their insurance squared away. We get their transportation arranged. We get their connectivity to other social services arranged. And we watch within that population, we watch the reliance on 911 decrease. Now that's the low-hanging fruit though, because those are the obvious ones who are, and I'm not kidding. In my career, I've gone sometimes to the same address for the same person 3-4 times a day on a 911 call. I'll give you a kind of a sad example. You know, the lady that lived in the response area of where I was a captain once had MS. She lived in an apartment building, and she was to the point in her MS that had progressed where she couldn't get out of bed anymore. She still had some motion in her arms and her head, and family wasn't there for her. We were told after about a year of this, we had engaged with public health, we had engaged with the city attorney, like this, if something happens, she's not gonna be able to get out of this. This is not an appropriate placement, but I don't get to just declare that. I can have opinions, but for her well-being, this just doesn't seem right. Well, we keep hearing about that this home health care service has been contracted. I promise you, we spent more time there than this fictitious contract that she had with these home health care people. They were never there. And we became, hey, I dropped my remote off my bed. Hey, they didn't come with my meal today. So that's what we became. No, we can all be all super conservative with the financing, and that's not a proper use, and you're chewing up resources, and thou shalt, and thou shalt. We can be all like that. What do you want me to do when I'm standing there at 2 a.m? You want me to scold her? You want me to get all uppity and righteous on her? What did she do wrong? She got MS? How about you go get mad at all the other city services that exist to solve this problem who are failing? How about you go talk to the churches? How about you go talk to all the welfare agencies? You go talk to all the health departments. Go yell at them. We're solving everybody else's problems all day long, and you want to come at the fire department about, well, that's an expensive solution. I agree. Invent some service to go take it from us. I will celebrate with you. But in the meanwhile, stop sticking the knife in the back of the firefighters and the EMTs and the paramedics who are showing up all day, every day.
Amen. Are there any questions for Chief Lipski? On that, we're going to bring a microphone.
One second. I'm going to start in the back.
Okay, we're going to start in the back and work our way up. We'll get you.
I felt like I should say, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall.
I don't know if I should ask the first question. Thank you, Fire Chief. So, can you talk about some of these apartment complexes that are grandfathered without sprinklers?
I can. Thank you. I thought I had reached my peak level.
I know, I just want to push you over the wall.
Thank you. Okay, pre-1974. Did I talk about this earlier?
Yeah? No, you did not.
Okay, pre-1974, buildings of all shapes and sizes were not required to have sprinkler systems. Post-1974, apartment buildings, whatever you picture that to be, were required to have sprinkler systems, all right? So if I'm a developer, a builder, a property owner, and I'm going to be spending money on a building in 1973, I'm trying to wring every penny of profit out of that project. So adding sprinklers is not free, it's not cheap. Those sprinklers are taking a backseat to everything else because we got to have the granite countertops, right? We're gonna rent more units if we have the, lighting tubes coming through the ceiling, right? So we got to have all that stuff. We're not doing the sprinklers. The vast majority of our high-rise buildings, high-rise residential apartment buildings in Milwaukee are pre-1974. What do you think that means? Very, very few people have gone back and retrofitted those buildings if they didn't have sprinklers. Most of them didn't. Here's the problem. Go back to the Archie Bunker 2.5-story wood frame that we put a lot of fires out in. A lot of those are about 4-5 feet apart. And wood frame, a lot of them have really garbage siding on them or wood clapboard that's been drying out. So those fires can spread from house to house readily. If we have a proper response, we can cut that spread off pretty quick. So the net result is, as bad as that fire in that one home is, we can usually contain it to that home, sometimes to 1 or 2 rooms in that home. So one family, possibly 2, maybe a third occupancy if they've got a built-out attic, are at risk. It's a finite number of people that are at immediate risk if we don't get there quickly. Now go to an apartment building. Each person that resides in that apartment, take a 12-unit apartment building. Each person in that building suffers the risk of every other human being that occupies that building. And that fire and that smoke doesn't really care what the law said. It's spreading. And everybody is at risk from even a small problem in apartment 6. Everybody suffers that risk. The sprinkler system absolutely kills that fire before it has a chance to generate enough smoke spread in the vast, vast, vast majority of cases to become toxic for the occupants. Gives us time in there, time to get in there and wet it down and clean it up and get people out, blow the smoke out. In most cases, when we have sprinklered buildings with fires, it is, from a firefighter's perspective, if you're a, go get them, gung-ho, I want to put fire out, you get into these sprinkler-controlled fires, and you're disappointed. There is so little for you to actually do. But our mission isn't to not be disappointed. Our mission is to save lives and protect property. Why would we not have this adjunct, this simple tool in place to do this? So this is a forever fight in the fire service since sprinklers were invented. We've been pushing this. Would you know, though, that if you're a policymaker and you happen to own a whole bunch of apartment buildings that aren't sprinklered,
You're out in the loss.
what? We don't say the name out loud. That's not the only one. Don't kid yourself. That's not the only one, state, local, federal. You're not really feeling like I want to dump a bunch of money into retrofitting these apartments. And so that just isn't going to be. And then, have you ever heard how Milwaukee's handled differently in state law? If you're ever bored, just Google state law and then do a word search for, put it in quotes so you get all the words in there, city of the first class, or county of the first class, or city in county of the first class. Let's talk about what does this mean. A city of the first class has 100,000 or more residents, all right? That's Milwaukee. So we just aren't saying Milwaukee, we're just saying a phrase that means city of the first class. A county of the first class is simply a county that has a city of the first class. So we can like punish the county a little bit because they contain this big sore spot called Milwaukee, right? And now, anytime there's anything in state law, and this has gone on for years, and it works its way through building code, it works its way through statutory budgeting. There's a lot of except for cities of the first class. You will not believe how often this phrase appears. But then everybody wants to stand on their pulpit and talk about Milwaukee this, Milwaukee that. Stick it in your ear. Stick it in your ear with the well, but Milwaukee, oh, the Dems. Oh, are you kidding me? You know how many people live in this city? And you go to church every Sunday? And this is how you think your fellow human is supposed to be treated? Don't preach to me. I'm there. I'm there. Do we have our issues? Absolutely. And I'll tell you all about them. I'll tell you all about them. I'm not hiding nothing. But don't get with all the high and mighty speechifying about, you know, thou shalt do this and you guys didn't do this right. Right. And let's go look at the township you live in. It's just as jacked up. It just isn't resource starved. Thanks for giving us Act 12, which I fought for, incidentally. Thanks for giving us Act 12, where we get to tax ourselves to raise more funds. Thank you. Very, very pleasant gift. Oh, you're going to give some of the money that you collected from us, from our own taxes back to us? You're going to give us this much more? Oh, huzzah. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. And it isn't good enough to just let people continue to like pat you on the head and patronize you. We are doing our level best in this city to get people what they need. And listen, sorry if you don't like some of the people that we're trying to help, but I don't get to pick winners and losers. I have to help everybody. And I could really use everybody's help in that pursuit. And if what I'm saying has you feeling a little bit like, this guy sounds like a little bit of a lib, right? If like that's in your head right now, I just want you to know this. I really don't care what you think about me. Because you'd be real surprised to know what my political leanings are. And I promise you'll never be able to guess. Don't try. This is not about politics. Politics has caused this. Politics has left us with this. We are holding the bag for all of this. We need to really reset and look at what are we actually doing? Does the back of house match the front of house, right? In restaurant terms, right? Like you can't have a filthy kitchen and then this gleaming dining room. That's just not gonna last for real long, right? You'll get shut down by the health department, people will get sick at your restaurant, food will taste bad, all these things. Back of house has to match the front of house. So if we are this collective of people in this fantastic place called America, we gotta like get back to the thing of looking out for each other a little bit. I'm not talking about handouts and giveaways, but I am talking about just common decency, being decent with each other. And what we started talking about, when we do disagree, that's okay. The disagreement isn't the issue, it's the how we're disagreeing. This has turned into a circus, local, state, and national. And it's not just right now. This has been going on from all sides for a very long time. We just got to learn how to talk to each other. And I'm not sitting up here professing to be really excellent at that. I've been horrible at that at times. But I guess I have a little bit of self-awareness to know, like, you know what? I can tell this person is really mad at me, and I can tell that because there's spit flying out of their mouth as they're screaming at me. Maybe me making some little talking point one-liner back at them right now isn't gonna help the scenario. So like, maybe it's time for me to, believe that or not, every once in a while I'm not talking.
All right, we reached the end of our time. I have a couple of questions if someone could answer them for me. Does anybody know the job that Chief Lipski had after he left Marquette? Who said that?
Nice.
I've got a challenge coin for you for the 150th anniversary. Does anybody know where Chief Lipski went to elementary school?
What the best?
Am I right?
To the banking chair.
There you go. Does anybody know what Chief Lipski majored in at Marquette?
Oh,
That real was and software to hell.
you gotta speak up.
Does anybody know the name of the ambulance service that he worked for? Nice.
Oh, doubles.
Man, that's really good.
Which one went sir down? Like,
Does anybody know your older brother's name?
Good question. That was
He said it.
That was good.
now don't discuss it.
There's an Elton John song named after him.
Oh, thank you. This is Daniel.
There you went, then. Just said that.
Does anybody know what floor of the? Oh my goodness! You can't win more than once.
I don't even.
He has 2 firefighters' son.
That is true.
All right. There's a couple of them in each little pack there.
Gotcha.
Because I know you're going to give that to Martha.
It's the fire department's 150th anniversary, and Chief Lipski brought a bunch of stuff. He didn't want to just give it away. He wanted to make sure everybody was paying attention.
Let's be Randy up.
You have one?
A question?
Yeah.
What's my mom's name? Oh!
Who said that?
Well done.
Doesn't it go to this book and so thank you.
Yeah.
Have some this kid.
9.5 pounds.
Oh, that was gonna be one.
Oh! She gets one. Just give her a T-shirt too. She said how much I weighed when I was born.
Oh.
72 hours later.
Oh!
Oh, sir.
But she said it first. Close. All right. What else could we ask?
I think
Anybody know the year the fire department started in Milwaukee?
1875. Years ago, so I know it's like.
All right. We got it. All right. This. Aside from you, this side has won too much. So we're gonna totally play with it now. What do we got? How many we got left?
I got one more T-shirt.
Okay. What could we ask that? What's a good trick question? Charles trick question.
Tetrahedron. Stop.
Bill.
What was the engine number that you worked at with your brother?
32.
32.
Who said that?
Nice. Well done. Double bonus. Okay.
Best question.
And now,
Bring it out those back.
all right,
Another bottle.
we have a polo with the 150th logo on it. It is. I am not going to sign it. It is size XL. If you would prefer a different size and you're the winner, then you can swap it out with me at a different time. Come on, Derek, you gotta have it.
Oh.
Like I,
Where's your favorite restaurant?
Black architect.
Oh, yeah. What was the name of the
Oh,
architect
yeah,
who
yeah,
designed the
good
chief's
question.
office? Anybody know his name? He was an African-American architect in the city of Milwaukee. He designed that building. Anybody know?
Oh, what?
Oh, Shane.
No.
How much?
Wait.
I didn't tell you. We didn't talk about
no,
it.
this is a triple bonus round. So now we're gonna ask you stuff we didn't give you the information for. So it was built in 19. That's not, no, I was making a sentence there. I was not a question. So, built in about 1961. He was the first African-American architect licensed in the state of Wisconsin and the city of Milwaukee, and he designed our headquarters.
Alonzo Robinson.
Hey-o! There you go, good sir. Well done.
Everybody, thank you so much for coming.
Thank
Could you
you,
give a
my
round of
friend.
applause to our guest, Chief Lipski?